All right, guys. So I've got Mark on the channel here, and me and Mark have gone a long way back since the days of Malta. And he's a blockchain enthusiast, a bit like me. Technology is changing, and me and Mark are sort of gone down that path where we're always intrigued about the next blockchain project, what good projects are out there, how we're following good practices and so forth. And so, Mark is a great, I would say, a person who believes in, good global warming. He's part of a project which is fundamentally using blockchain to change the world from a greener aspect. And so we have Mark on the channel here to share what he's doing with his blockchain project and following, the practices there. As you know, this is not financial advice, so take this as an educational video interview, part of an entertainment purposes to sort of teach and educate people about this space. And that's kind of who and what I stand for. So, Mark, it's great to have you.
Thanks, Naz. Great to be here.
Good stuff.
And great to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a while, and like I say, we were just chatting in Malta and how things have sort of how things have progressed. So, tell us, Mark, what made you get into the space before we go into the project? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're all in crypto because of Bitcoin, aren't we? I first heard about it in probably 2013. And,
Right.
I was immediately intrigued by the concept and I read about it a lot, and I didn't actually buy any. The only way to buy it
I remember that day you told me,
to wire cash to the bank account in Estonia.
Yeah.
And being a risk averse accountant, it was just too much of a step for me, just sending this money to some people who I didn't have a clue who they were. It just seemed like a scam. And the irony is, of course, since then I've invested in loads of scams. And
I suppose the audience would resonate to that as well. The audience would resonate to that as well. That past years we've had projects that haven't really sort of pulled their weight up.
Yeah. I mean, everyone who's invested in cryptocurrency projects, everyone's had similar experiences, and we're all careful nowadays, and do your own research.
Exactly.
I mean, what Bitcoin's proven is that proof of work is the most battle-tested consensus mechanism, and we all admire Satoshi's vision and what he set out when he initially created Bitcoin, and that's why we're all here, basically, at the end of the day. But the power consumption of Bitcoin at the current rates, I think, is an unintended consequence. I think back when Satoshi and the group of people who got together to create Bitcoin, I didn't necessarily think that they thought one day Bitcoin might be using, like today, say, 0.5% of the world's electricity, or maybe in 5 or 10 years time, how much will it take? I mean, it could be a lot. So it's hard to see a mechanism because Bitcoin's so decentralized, whereas the Bitcoin price rises, and I do think over time the Bitcoin price will rise, that the power consumption drops. So I mean, I think it is a serious problem. We're cryptocurrency enthusiasts, but we also care about the planet and the environment, and we want cryptocurrency to be sustainable. And certainly the people in the project, most of us have children already. We're a slightly older project, not young guns like you, Naz. We want to pass on to them kind of a better world. So that's where we're coming from.
And I totally agree with you with those concepts. So where do you, carbon credits, you're part of a project which is trying to change the world for a greener way. Tell us a bit about your project and why you sort of use blockchain as part of your project to move forward. Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, specifically, as I mentioned, Bitcoin uses about 0.5% of the world's electricity. Now this dropped dramatically after China banned mining earlier in the year, but it's recovered to about 95% of its previous level. Most of the mining takes place in countries.
Yeah.
Most of the mining takes place in countries with like a significant fossil fuel as part of their electricity generation mix.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it's the US, Kazakhstan, Russia. You know, that we're not talking. It's not all happening in Iceland or using hydropower in Quebec. Although those are the bits that you quite often hear about.
Yeah.
If you look at the network as a whole. And, you know, even if you are using hydropower in Quebec or solar in the Sahara or whatever renewable resource you're using, there's still carbon emissions to produce the photovoltaic cells or build a hydroelectric dam or whatever. You know,
so about your project, I mean, what is it, Carbon Reduction Initiative? Can you explain to the audience of what you're doing?
Yeah. So what we're doing is we will move transactions off Bitcoin onto a more energy efficient network and generate carbon credits based on the difference in the amount of CO2 produced using a methodology that's been approved by a carbon credit certification body called Verra, who are based in Washington, D.C. in the US.
Right.
They're the world's biggest carbon credit certification body. And we're currently in the final stages of getting that methodology approved. Verra have done their initial review and we're responding to their queries. And once approved, you know, we'll be the world's first carbon credit generating blockchain.
So let's go back a little bit because crypto is very new to a lot of people and they're still trying to learn and educate themselves. So let's try go off layman terms, but sort of in the simplest way. You're trying to cut energy costs by using your blockchain in terms of how you transact with each other.
So that's the initial part of our project. The initial part of our project is highlighting Bitcoin's energy consumption and trying to cut energy costs by using a different chain, but then monetizing that reduction by generating carbon credits based on the transactions we move across. So that's the unique bit. The unique bit's kind of doing the carbon credit methodology, which is quite difficult. You know, we've been already in negotiations with Verra for about a year and a half. And obviously we're still going through the review with them. So, you know, that's been a very long process, particularly in crypto terms, where, you know, if something takes 3 months, it's a long time. So effectively, we've been in stealth mode, just kind of head down, just kind of getting on with it. But because we haven't wanted any publicity, because our lead time was so long, because we had an external process. It wasn't a case of just programming a coin and releasing it and hyping it. It was an actual external process with an NGO that's going to take years.
Time.
Not months. So you know, that's where we're coming from. But our next step after we've done this is you know, it seems very popular nowadays, but there's a kind of DeFi aspect of this in that we will know that we've generated carbon credits on our chain. But
can you explain carbon credits? What do you mean to the audience so they can kind of understand this, what you're doing?
So a carbon credit is a kind of right or a representation of either a ton of carbon saved in terms of a project. So you might plant trees that, you know, over their lifetime will remove so many tons of carbon.
That's really good.
Every year an auditor comes in and assesses the state of growth of those trees. And you generate carbon credits depending on how much carbon those trees will have taken from the atmosphere.
So you're using blockchain for the greater good in that sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So then, if a company is maybe wanting to offset their carbon footprint, They
Okay.
will buy the carbon credits that represent the carbon taken out of the air by the project planting those trees, and they will retire them. They'll kind of burn them in
Oh,
crypto
wow.
terms.
Cool.
So then they say, we helped fund this carbon project, and then we took the tokens and we burned them. So
Okay.
we had a carbon footprint, but
Mhm.
we've given the money to someone else to offset our carbon footprint. So
Right.
that's what companies do. And carbon credits can be bought. Normally, there's no kind of centralized place at the moment to buy carbon credits. There's no easy
Yeah.
carbon credit exchange. You buy it through intermediaries who sit between the projects and the purchasers normally.
Mhm.
Um, so, that's how the market works. Carbon credits cost from $2 to quite a lot, maybe
Wow.
$30 if it was a particularly interesting project.
Okay.
Um,
So they buy these credits, these carbon credits. Let me get
yeah,
to
yeah.
save
So,
costs.
well, so someone like I don't know,
Mhm.
Google, or all the big tech companies try and offset their carbon footprint, except for maybe Amazon. I don't know about them because their
Okay.
carbon footprint's huge because they actually have
Right.
deliveries. But Google and Facebook and Apple and everyone, they offset their carbon footprint
Okay.
by buying carbon credits.
Okay, that's interesting. So to my audience, we're learning about what carbon, the reduction they're doing and how they're using blockchain. So do stay with us here. So what problem are you trying to solve, Mark, in this space? So what do you see as a problem that your project is solving? Yeah.
Well, as I said, initially, what we want to do is
Hmm.
try to offset the impact of Bitcoin's proof of work mechanism.
Okay.
Now, Bitcoin uses a proof of work consensus mechanism, and
Right.
basically that secures the Bitcoin network by making everyone perform incredibly complex
Hmm.
calculations to win the right to make each next new block. Now, as the price of Bitcoin goes up, and on average it always has gone up,
Hmm.
more and more people want to mine Bitcoin
Yeah.
to try
It's
and
a
win that
yeah.
new block
Hmm.
because it's going to be worth more and more money.
It's quite high right now. The miners actually, they're not, as I know, they're not offloading any Bitcoin. They're actually mining
No,
more and
no.
more. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so, as Bitcoin price goes up, the
Yep.
electricity consumption will go up. It's
True.
about 0.5% at the moment, but say in 2 years' time, it might be 1%. Um,
Okay.
and a couple of years after that, it might be 2%. I
Right.
mean, it's hard to predict, and there's going to be ups and downs. And when the Bitcoin price falls, obviously mining drops off slightly. But
Yes.
over time, clearly the trend we have seen is the electricity consumption of Bitcoin going up.
It's kind of doing an S curve Bitcoin. It's every 4 years is there's something new that's going on with Bitcoin, and I think it hasn't really reached its peak yet, from my opinion, anyway. But so yeah, that's interesting. So just we'll keep this interview simple so the audience can understand this. We won't go too technical. So how are you solving how is carbon credits going to solve the problem here, the blockchain problem that you're doing? Like, how are you going to move forward with this in terms of?
Um, Obviously, it gives consumers another choice.
Okay.
So that's one thing we're doing. Um, but the next step is really, as I said, to kind of
Mhm.
begin to create an ecosystem
Okay.
around carbon credits and cryptocurrency and carbon projects. Um, I mean, so for
Just
instance,
Bitcoin only, or you're looking at other cryptos as well, or if?
um, you know, I, I mean, I guess in terms of the kind of carbon emissions of each chain, the carbon emissions of Bitcoin are much bigger than the other chains. So you start, and some chains like
Mm.
Ethereum are
Ethereum's
trying
growing,
to
yeah.
put in place their own solution.
Right.
But Bitcoin, because it's so decentralized,
Yes.
it doesn't have an easy way to make that transition. It doesn't have an Ethereum foundation to kind of guide the Bitcoin community onto a more efficient consensus mechanism. So the only way that could be done is over time by publicizing what could be seen as a potential problem, and hopefully getting enough people in the Bitcoin community to kind of see it as a potential problem and maybe make a choice to kind of move to a potential solution.
Right. So you think Bitcoin will grow in that sense, in how they transact, and will it be
I
used
think in
more
the
and more?
longer term, I
Hmm.
think in the longer term, you know, we know that the algorithm securing Bitcoin is vulnerable to quantum computing.
Hmm.
So in the long term, and we are talking quite a long time here,
Yeah.
I think there will need to be some fundamental changes to Bitcoin to secure the network. So maybe at the same time those changes are being made, maybe there'll be chances for other changes to be made, and maybe
Okay.
Bitcoin will choose to make a change then to
Yeah.
a more energy efficient consensus mechanism
Yeah.
potentially.
There was quite a lot of FUD in May with all this energy, whether Bitcoin was using greener energy, and
Yeah,
um, I suppose you probably heard, and I suppose projects like yours are being born to solve those issues as well, right?
yeah. I mean, the question of greener energy, and you know, sometimes it's valid. Um,
Hmm.
so, for instance, Iceland, you know, very green energy. You know, all geothermal. They have excess energy. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know, but a
I think
lot of the
Texas as
time,
well. Texas is.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of the time, unless you have a country that has excess energy,
Mhm.
and most countries don't have excess energy. Most countries need most of the energy they produce. Um, if you use the renewables, that means someone else has to use the fossil fuel energy. So you're
Yes.
using up the renewables that they would have used, and you're kind of pushing them into using dirtier energy. So Bitcoin's clean, but someone else is having to
To
use the
shift that.
fossil fuel energy. So unless you've got an excess capacity in a country,
Mhm.
it's not necessarily a solution just for
Right.
Bitcoin to use dedicated renewable resources. So
All right.
sometimes you get an excess.
I'm glad to
Sometimes you
see
get
that.
an excess.
Yeah, you get excess, and I'm glad to see the back of China, really, because it was so much froth in the market, and we didn't know where they were standing with that. And what's your take on? I suppose a lot of crypto people are watching this would probably agree with me as well that China, made a big problem out of this. Would you say so? Or
I don't know. I mean, you know, the rumors were
yeah,
going wild at the time as to
yeah,
why China were doing it then. It seems
yeah,
every year China decides to ban something to do with crypto,
and then it
and the
only goes up.
markets take,
Yeah.
yeah, and then it ends up going up. Um, So, you know, I have no special insight into what's going
Mm,
on in China,
mm.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you know, I'd be an
they just want
investor
their
and I'd be
money,
making
I
a
think.
fortune.
Yeah, they want their money, and it seems they don't want something else controlling them. So it's kind of like a totalitarian state, in my point of view. So let's go back to the project. So we've learned about what you're doing, the problems you're trying to solve, and for my audience here, do stay with us, because do ask Mark any questions as well. I'll leave his email address for people who want to reach out to Mark, and especially crypto enthusiasts and so forth, and business people. But
Yeah.
what is it that you're doing to change the world? We've talked about the problem you're solving, but what you're trying to do to change the world, make it better? Because we all want to hear crypto for the better good, for the greater good. We don't want to hear scams and this and that. We want to
Yeah.
hear blockchain for the greater good. What are you doing to change the world? Yeah.
We particularly want to kind of build this wider sustainability ecosystem. You know, the carbon market's
Right.
large, and it's
Okay.
expected to grow 15 times by 2030 and
Okay.
100 times by 2050.
Wow.
So, there's plenty of space for many crypto projects. And, we better serve the planet by helping each other
Mhm.
rather than believing that our solution is the one true way.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's other projects like, I don't know, Climber, Toucan Carbon Flow,
Okay.
Dorium,
They're
Save
doing the
Planet
same
Earth.
thing.
Well, not identical things, but they're all in a similar space. And
Right.
they're all solving slightly different problems in a similar space. So
Okay.
I mean, there's a chance for those projects to kind of develop stronger links and work together, and kind of maybe even create a place where people who are interested in cryptocurrency and sustainability and the planet can go and kind of
Yeah.
access those projects, perhaps ranked independently, so that that you're investing in things or using things that have a purpose for the future of the planet. So that's one of
Yeah.
the next things we want to do: build that ecosystem.
That's really important, and I totally agree. And I love what you're doing and the concept you're following. So that's very important to my audience as well. So my last question is where are you standing with the institutional side? I mean, how do your customers see your project, and what are you doing to bring value to them and so forth?
Okay. I guess for our current investors, we've got a lucrative proposition in that, we've got a cryptocurrency that will be
Hmm.
generating external revenue from the sale of the carbon credits. So that
Okay.
underpins the value of the currency.
Right.
So that's something that not many projects have.
Hmm.
50% of the carbon credit revenue generated will be distributed among the kind of eco node holders,
Okay.
securing the
So you
network.
reward them.
Yeah, and 50% is retained by the company who need the legal title to the carbon credits so that they can sell them on behalf of the carry
Hmm.
holders.
Yes.
And we've effectively been bootstrapped through friends and family so far. But given we're near the end of the process, we are beginning to reach out to VCs in the crypto space and
Okay.
sustainability space for kind of
Hmm.
more significant investment. For customers, we're going to provide an eco-friendly alternative to Bitcoin with decentralized governance so the
Okay.
community can decide its own direction. We're going to build that ecosystem of like-minded cryptocurrencies in the sustainability space. They're all going to be independently reviewed so that the consumers can know that they're making an informed choice which projects to invest in, participate, or
Right.
use. For the other carbon credit projects,
Hmm.
we'll offer them the option of tokenizing their earned carbon credits, which are not
Okay.
yet verified. So we can improve their cash flow by using the systems we're creating for our own blockchain. And when eventually, what our ultimate aim is to partner with Vera and the Gold Standard, who are the
Okay.
two biggest carbon credit certification bodies
Right.
in the world, and help them to try and set up a tokenized carbon credit exchange. And why we would want to do that is because we would want to create an exchange that was low cost,
Mm.
directly accessible by carbon credit projects, and they could transact directly with the purchasers. At the moment, there's a plan put together by the former governor of the Bank of England and Bank of Canada, Mark Carney.
Right. Okay.
He was heading up something called the Task Force for Scaling Voluntary Carbon Markets.
Okay.
And their plan, they have a plan for an exchange, but their plan for an exchange is based upon kind of commodities markets.
Hmm.
So it's very different, and there's kind of gatekeepers in terms of you
Right.
contact brokers to transact your carbon credits, and they'd be bundled together with other carbon credits and transacted in blocks of similar carbon credits. I think we have a different vision in that we'd like to see people able to transact directly at very
Hmm.
low cost and low friction. And we'd prefer a much more cryptocurrency kind of mediated market rather than a traditional kind of banking market. You know, we don't see the need for intermediaries.
Okay.
We want everyone to be able to transact directly.
That's amazing. So yeah, seems there's a lot going on with what you're doing, and I suppose people who've tuned into this, we've made this very simple interview sort of for you to understand and learn what Mark is doing with his project and so forth. It's great to have you, Mark. It's great to learn about you. Where can we reach out to you and follow you, and sort of how can business inquiries be made to you, sort of thing? Yeah.
It's probably easiest to either send me an email, which is mm@cri.eco.
Okay.
Or you can find me on LinkedIn, and you can find the company on LinkedIn. Although we don't spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, being a cryptocurrency project, we're mostly on Discord.
Okay.
You can find us on Twitter too.
Right. Okay. So we can get hold of you when this interview's out, and they can write to you and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll send, you know, put my email.
I'll put the details and so
the video, and yeah, certainly. I'm very pleased to hear from anyone. I'd love to discuss it with people, and kind of get the word out.
I know a few people, so yeah, well, hopefully we'll make some noise out of this and get it out there. And I just want one last question. It's been a great interview, and for my audience, do go to the website, do reach out to Mark, learn about what they're doing. Any business inquiries, please do get in touch. Where do you see your stance in the UK with the project, with regulation and so forth? Yeah.
You know, we've been in touch with Latham and Watkins, who've given us their kind of legal opinion.
Okay.
So, you know, we haven't actually sold any coins.
Still an open market, isn't it? Yeah. It's still
all our investors have invested in the private limited company.
Okay.
And, you know, we've just given the coins away so far to people who are in the community.
Okay, that's great.
Investors and others who've contributed. So by not having a value for the coin, it makes it very clear it's not a security, and that's you know that's
quite important, especially when you give it away, which is amazing.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Great, Mark. Great to have you, and do reach out to him. And the reason why I do these interviews is because we like to learn about what projects are doing in the right way and learn good practices. And the last times, I think keeping it simple is really important. So for those who've enjoyed this interview, do reach out to Mark and learn about it, because it's still kind of frothy to a lot of people still trying to learn about it, right?
Yeah, it's not the easiest project to explain either.
All right, Mark, great to have you, and do reach out to him. Thanks very much for having me.
Great to see you again, Naz.
Great to see you, mate. Bye. Okay, take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.